the warrior are an elite. They're an absolute. They're a group of people who sit above society. They're not really integrated fully. The warrior, I first met him during an excavation. So I was excavating with my team the burial ground just slightly south of Bamburgh Castle, and it's a burial ground that's associated with the castle. It's originally called the Danish burial ground on the Ordnance Survey map, the first edition. And we set out specifically to find the burial ground, which we did relatively early on. And then we started to uncover the burials. So I first encountered him as just an individual who I had no context for other than the burial ground. He was just an isolated a skeleton with a framework of a burial ground, but he was an individual skeleton. And then obviously after excavation, going through the osteology and the scientific suite associated with him, we were able to pinpoint that he was a Dalraiden who was obviously died in Northumbria, and we were able to pinpoint the time of his death somewhere around 630, which obviously coincides with Oswald, King Oswald being in Northumbria, and it sort of everything started to fall into place, and we were able to identify that this person would have been almost certainly a high-ranking warrior, chieftain or prince associated with Oswald's kingdom and warband.
He was well looked after. I mean, one of the things that the analysis has shown is there's no stress patterns in his bones that come from lack of nutrition when growing up. He was well fed, which is one of the indicators that you know he was from the highest classes who always had access to food, sufficient food while growing up. So you know, he was a well fed, well built, formidable individual.
The whole raison d'etre really is warfare. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. They practice with their weapons every single day. They're expert in their weapons. They talk about their weapons. They name their weapons. They tell tales about their weapons. They're fierce in use of their weapons. These are not people who pretend. They live it. The weaponry that they use, that's the key to their fighting prowess, and it's the keys to the kingdom. So when a king has a smith who can make a sword like the Bamburgh sword, they have effectively the blueprint for stealth bombers in modern terms. You know, it's something that no one else has and you don't want to lose.
What's really unusual about him is we can say something of his life as well. Because normally with skeletons you get a bit of a snapshot, but you don't usually have a linear story. But because of where he was born and the events and the time he lived in, we can actually tell something, a biography of a man who we don't know his name, but we know what he did and what he took part in.
It was just a weird, very, very strange experience to be excavating a skeleton in a place where he'd lived and died. And my only connection to anything really was this skeleton. It was a very visceral moment, and it was. I remember having a very strong connection, but just feeling very, very connected to this skeleton in a way I don't really understand. I'm not superstitious at all, really, but it was just a very sobering moment to realise that this was had once been a living, breathing entity, a very powerful prince, probably, a strong warrior, someone who had a beginning, a middle, and an end, but also would have been someone formidable.
And that's one of the things we've tried to do in this book, is to actually both tell the story of the warrior, but then also convey some of the excitement and interest and processes of the archaeology and the archaeologists who brought him to life. Because they're a fascinating bunch as well, actually, and very good to go for a beer with.
I think if I could ask him one question, it would probably be, do you want to fight? I'd love to know just how good they are, because I suspect it's beyond my imagination.
I don't think you'd last very long,
No,
sword.
I'm not with the sword, no.